Have you ever walked into your own home after being away for a few days and noticed things you don't normally notice? Whether it's the smell of the house, the way the afternoon light comes through a particular window, the sound of the floorboards. Nothing has changed. You've simply had enough distance to notice them again. It's an interesting part of being a human being. We don't only adapt to difficult things, we can also adapt to good things. We become so familiar with them that they quietly fade into the background. Not because they matter less, simply because they become part of everyday life. Think about the route you take most often: driving to work, walking to the shops, a journey to visit the family. The first few times, everything catches your attention. You notice the buildings, the turns, the little cafes you pass. Months later, you can arrive at your destination and realize, oh, barely remember how I got here. Your mind wasn't switched off, it was simply making room for something else. That's what familiarity does. It frees our attention. The difficulty is that it doesn't always choose wisely. The same thing happens with people. A friend who always checks in, family member who never forgets your birthday, that colleague who quietly makes everyone's day a little easier. Because they're consistent, we begin to expect their kindness instead of noticing it. Then one day they're on holiday, they move away, or they retire, or simply they're just not there. And suddenly, we realize how much space they quietly filled in our lives. Sometimes absence doesn't create value, it reveals value that was already there. We can even become accustomed to parts of ourselves. You might be the person others rely on because you're calm in difficult situations. You may assume everyone would respond in the same way. You might be naturally patient, organized, encouraging, without even thinking about it. Yet those qualities stand out to other people precisely because they aren't ordinary. What feels effortless to us is often deeply appreciated by someone else. We just don't always recognize it because we've lived with it for so long. There's another side to becoming used to things. Sometimes we adapt to patterns that aren't helping us. Always rushing, always saying yes, always checking emails before we've even got out of bed. At first, they feel temporary, then they become routine. Eventually, they begin to feel normal. That's one of the quietest ways habits shape our lives. Not by asking for permission, but by slowly convincing us there's always a space for them. It's worth asking ourselves every so often, what have I accepted without ever fully really choosing? That question isn't about judging ourselves, it's about noticing. Because once we notice something, we can decide whether it still deserves a place in our lives. Children often remind us how different attention can be. They stop to watch a snail crossing the pavement. They laugh at shapes in the clouds. They ask questions adults stopped asking years ago. Nothing around them is especially extraordinary. Their attention simply hasn't become as selective. Somewhere along the way, many of us became experts at filtering out the familiar. That's useful. It's also a shame. Because some of the best parts of life are quietly waiting inside the things we've stopped seeing. Maybe today isn't about finding something new. Maybe it's about noticing something old. The conversation you always have with a neighbor. The cup of tea someone makes without asking. The familiar voice that answers when you make a phone call. The routine that gives shape to your week. The ordinary moments that ask for nothing, yet quietly give us far more than we realize. If something comes to mind while you're listening, don't rush past it. Stay with it, even for a moment. Sometimes the things we become used to are the very things that deserve our attention the most. I'll leave you with that thought and I'll speak to you again soon.